This is a graph that shows the handiwork of God.
All right, let's see it. And the fit today is the Spawn #1 cover.
What you're seeing here is every cross-reference in the Bible that is overt, an overt cross-reference in the Bible.
So that is not accurate according to the people who created this visualization. A man named Chris Harrison created this visualization based on a data set that was put together by a pastor named Christoph Romhild from the King James Version. And Chris Harrison defines cross-references as conceptual links between verses, connecting locations, people, phrases, etc. So they're not even direct lexical links. They are conceptual, which means it's the concepts that are evoked in our minds by the English translation of the Bible. And so it's really a measure of how creative we can be with connecting passages. I was unable to find a comprehensive list of all of the cross-references. I would love to see one if anyone has access to it. But from what few cross-references I was able to dredge up on the internet, it seems pretty problematic. So Genesis 1, for instance, is cross-referenced anytime there's a reference to creation. Even though there are two completely independent accounts of creation scattered around the Hebrew Bible that have absolutely nothing to do with Genesis 1. But if they refer to creation in any way, they're going to be linked back to Genesis 1. So this is actually not a measure of what was intended by the authors. This is a measure of what we today are able to creatively read into the text.
Guess how many connections in the Bible? 63,779 connections in the Bible. If this was the work composed by one man, we would say this man is a master. He's a master composer.
No, if this were the work of one person, we would say they were very clearly going through some things, because the Bible is internally very inconsistent and frequently self-contradictory. It was written in 3 different languages over the course of around 1,000 years by probably well over 100 different authors, editors, and redactors. It constantly disagrees with itself, and its authors and editors are writing in different times and different places to different audiences for different reasons from different perspectives. And so the fact that it is richly self-referential does not indicate a kind of unified divine curation in light of how repeatedly and constantly self-contradictory it is.
The problem is, this is written by 40 different men over 1,500 years on 3 continents, Europe, Asia, and Africa, in 3 different languages, Greek, Hebrew, and Aramaic, and the entire book tells one united story. It's all connected together.
So these claims are presupposing precisely what they are purporting to be demonstrating. In other words, this is begging the question. If you allow the text of the Bible to operate on their own terms, you can't arrive at univocality. You cannot arrive at a single narrative thread linking everything together. You can only arrive at those things if you have brought them with you and you are imposing them upon the text and you are not allowing yourself to arrive at anything else. That's just begging the question. At best, the one unifying narrative thread would be that this is the authoritative literature that has accumulated over around 1,000 years for a single ethnic/ideological community that has curated that accumulation. And you could do that, but you'd have to acknowledge that that ethnic/ideological community has ebbed and flowed over the centuries, and their composition and their circumstances and needs and exigencies and outlooks and perspectives have all changed significantly over the course of that 1,000 years as well. But this kind of rhetoric is not interested in allowing the text to operate on their own terms. This very clearly is saying, no, we are in charge of what the text is allowed to mean, and we are only allowing it to mean what we want it to mean, which in this case is this kind of supernatural consistency that they're suggesting is demonstrated by this rich self-referentiality.
The only answer for this is God, period. You find me another book in all of human civilization that even scratches the surface of this.
This is pure and utter nonsense. There is absolutely no need whatsoever to appeal to any kind of supernatural agency or activity to account for the self-referentiality of this collection of texts. The most unique and amazing thing about the collection is that the group that began it and curated it down through the centuries managed to persevere and survive as well as they did against all odds, and unlike the other groups around them that were doing very similar things but did not survive nearly as long. And in the ebbing and flowing of that group, there came a point at which it split, and one of those streams of tradition found itself in positions of unimaginable privilege and power, and used that collection of texts as a tool in structuring that power and its values and its boundaries. And they imposed these presuppositions of univocality on the text. And they decided what the text was and wasn't allowed to mean. And they decided where the connections were going to be found in the text. And now today, this text is still primarily a tool of structuring power and values and boundaries. And we pretend to be amazed at the consistency that we have imposed upon the text. And we insist that this consistency that we impose upon the text cannot have come from anywhere else than the divine itself. And that is just pure dogmatism.